Welcome to Entry 0.1 in the Starfield Handbook, your most reliable and detailed source of Starfield information in the settled systems. Today we'll be covering everything you need to know about your character, from XP generation and leveling, to backgrounds, traits, skills, and customization. It's all here. I've compiled every piece of confirmed information we have into the handbook and hope it serves as a valuable resource for you leading up to the official launch of the game in September. And look, I get it. You've probably seen some of this information before, but I promise that you'll learn something new by the end of this video, even if you're a Starfield expert. So fasten your seatbelts and join me on a journey through the stars. We've got a lot to cover today. First up is backgrounds, which we know very little about compared to other systems in the game. There are currently only 6 backgrounds we know exact details on, and since the 2022 gameplay trailer and 2023 Starfield Direct, they've undergone some changes. Let's take a quick look at both before we dig in.
Character creation is more than just how you look. This is also where you start to decide who you want to be. That's where backgrounds come in. Backgrounds give you a bit of backstory and start you out with 3 basic skills.
From chef to Dusty. You know, the crew still has a betting pool about which restaurant critic you must have crossed to wind up here.
What's great about backgrounds is you never know when yours is going to come in handy. You could be in the middle of a fancy restaurant talking to some guy, and suddenly you learn he needs a beast hunter to help track down a monster.
Fine. I probably should stick to professionals anyway, given what happened the last time.
You'll pick a background that gives you 3 starting skills.
Says here you spent some time as a diplomat. Having a way with words might prove useful.
So the first thing we can see here is that there are background-specific dialogue interactions we can encounter. It's not clear whether this impacts quest rewards or potentially locks us out of quests entirely. This could simply be to spice up dialogue. We'll have to wait and see. It'd be cool to see each background receive some sort of unique reward from a quest that's background specific, but I won't hold my breath. The second thing here being that you get 3 skills out of the gates to help speed up your journey. The skills shown in Direct versus 2022 gameplay have been changed, with the key difference being that now you only have access to Tier 1 novice skills from your background, whereas you could previously access up to Tier 3 expert skills, such as robotics. I'll speak more to this once we get to skills later on. While this seems like a practical change to prevent certain classes from being overtuned early on, it would have been cool to have every class receive 1 skill at a higher tier to balance things out. If you were paying close attention to those 2 videos, you'll notice that we saw all the backgrounds for Chef to Explorer in detail, including their starter skills. However, Beast Hunter to Bounty Hunter, we don't know the starting skills, even though Beast Hunter we saw featured in a dialogue option. And then Gangster to Ronin, we also don't know what the starting skills are. You'll notice as well that there are more options beyond Ronin that we can likely scroll down to. Given that the scroll bar there looks like it's about 80% full, I think it's safe to assume we're probably looking at 20 total backgrounds, given that there are 16 that we can see on the screen here right now. So without going into too much detail on the 6 backgrounds we have full and complete information on, it's pretty clear that Bethesda has been very intentional with the starting perks that they plan to give each character based on the background you select. So chef being a great example. Obviously, gastronomy is important as a chef. Dueling, you're using knives in the kitchen a lot. Scavenging makes sense in terms of scrounging up the ingredients you would want to prepare a meal. And then the final thing to note is that between 2022 and 2023 gameplay examples, we see that wellness was the former starting 3rd skill versus scavenging, which has now taken its place. So they've done some tuning to make sure things feel right for each background. So next we've got combat medic. So obviously a focus on engaging as well as healing. So pistol certification is an additional 10% damage with pistols, whereas medicine is 10% additional healing from med packs. And using the 2022 gameplay for chef, we also know that wellness provides you with 30 additional hit points. So those are the starting skills you get on combat medic. And then moving on to cyber runner, we have stealth. So obviously stealth kills are built into that, security for picking locks, and then theft for pickpocketing. Makes quite a bit of sense for Cyberrunner to bear those starting skills. And then in terms of cyberneticist, we've got medicine, security, and lasers. So that actually is quite a big change from the original cyberneticist perks. And this is where robotics formerly was one of the starting skills. But again, it was too high a level of a skill to start with. So I think the change makes sense to bring it down to security, which is a novice skill that you can get right out of the gates in the game. So next we've got diplomat, so obviously very speech related and interaction with NPC based, so persuasion for likelihood of success in dialogue interactions, commerce for buying and selling and running your own shop, and then wellness in terms of just giving you more base HP. So more of a filler skill, it feels like in this case, but probably just something to fill that level 1 novice skill tree. And last on the list for the backgrounds we actually know confirmed information about is Explorer, which personally looks the most enticing to me, given that it comes with surveying and astrodynamics as base skills. Surveying is going to be incredibly important early on for knocking out your survey completion on each system or planet, moon, whatever you're visiting, as you earn extra rewards for completing full survey. So either starting with Explorer or speccing into that early is going to be something critical, since those are ongoing rewards you'd be building up. And then lasers is just more base damage on lasers. And then astrodynamics is for allowing for further gravity jumps. So if you need to stretch your skills a little bit more to reach more distant planets, astrodynamics is going to come in handy early on, especially with ship upgrades likely being more expensive than other base upgrades in the game. Enjoying the video and want to see more high-quality Starfield content? Then consider subscribing to stay updated and to help me reach my ambitious goal of 15k subs by the end of the year. Less than 1% of you are subscribed. I spent dozens of hours thoughtfully organizing all of this information into an easily digestible format, and my promise to you is that I will create the absolute best Starfield guides available once the game launches. Let's get back to it.
Constellation members are excited about the character customization and the traits in the game. Can you talk more about what players will experience with the traits?
I love our trait list, it's super fun. But each one obviously comes with some sort of negative as well. And we have a way in the game, kind of an activity or quest you can do to remove that trait, as opposed to, don't like my character, I want to start over. Each of them are something like that you can solve that removes the entire trait for the rest of your playthrough. There are optional traits, and these come with unique advantages and disadvantages.
So traits are a really cool addition to the game that influence your playthrough with something that directly impacts combat, like Alien DNA, where your base health and endurance is higher, but healing items are less effective. Or something more specific, such as Dream Home, where you receive a house right out of the gates, but it comes with a mortgage attached to it. As mentioned, these traits are optional, and each is meant to come with a positive and a negative, so it's your choice whether you want any at all to be part of your playthrough. The one thing that isn't clear is whether the traits can be acquired again if you've removed them during a playthrough, or if you've never activated them at all, whether they can be added as well. I suspect the answer is that you can't do either of those, considering that some of these traits seem to be tied to specific NPCs, which we'll see later on with hero worship, and the potential removal of a certain someone may make it difficult to reactivate that trait down the road. Moving on, we've got Empath, which makes your companions more or less effective in combat based on whether you're doing actions that they like or dislike respectively. For Freestar Collective Settler, you get more dialogue options with Freestar Collective and better rewards from the missions given by the faction, but the negative side is that crime bounty towards other factions is greatly increased. So you'll notice that it says can't be combined with any other faction allegiance trait, so it's pretty safe to say that any of the other faction allegiance traits like United Colonies Native will be identical in the sense that they'll give more bounties towards the other factions and you just get better rewards and dialogue from them.
We're also giving you the option to customize your build even further by letting you pick up to 3 traits. Traits are completely optional, and they come with their own advantages and disadvantages. You could choose to meet your biggest fan.
By Vectera! Is it really, really you?
He'll join your crew, and he'll give you gifts if you're willing to put up with his constant commentary.
I can't believe I get to stand near you, breathing the same air. I've got to have every molecule.
So that quick clip there gave us a good look at most of the other available traits to select from. The first being hero worship, so any of you who've played Oblivion will likely be quite familiar with the adoring fan who is showing up in Starfield in a similar likeness and will follow you around and can actually join you as a crew member and will give you gifts on occasion. So previously the description for this was that he would just give you rewards, and so they've changed with the direct that he can join your ship crew as well, which is kind of neat. Next is introvert, where exerting yourself uses less oxygen when adventuring alone, but more when adventuring with other human companions. And so you note that it can't be combined with extrovert, would be kind of conflicting if you were an introvert but an extrovert at the same time. So the safe assumption here is that the opposite would be true, that extrovert means less oxygen is consumed when adventuring with other human companions, and then more is exerted when adventuring alone. It's interesting to note how they use oxygen as the descriptor here, because it was previously described as endurance previous to the Direct's release. So this makes me wonder, is our stamina bar equivalent going to be just an oxygen meter? And does that mean that our suit has some sort of oxygen replenishing technology inside of it? And that's what is allowing us to exert ourselves for longer or shorter periods of time. And that is the limiting factor. That's kind of interesting, because that would be some way to justify that the technology we have allows us to stay on planet surfaces for indefinite amounts of time, and it's purely limited by our suit's capabilities to produce oxygen, versus using some sort of stamina-based meter to determine how long we can run and jump and whatnot.
My favorite trait is kid stuff. You have to pay some credits to support your parents, but they're very sweet and it's really fun to go visit them.
Honey, we got ourselves a visitor.
Oh my god!
So we just got a nice little visual display of the kid stuff trait, but the caveat to that is that you are going to be sending some of your income to your parents every week. Thankfully, they made a small adjustment to the trait where previously you'd be sending 10% of your income to your parents every week. Now they've dropped it down to just 2%. But you can imagine that on a weekly basis, given that time is scaled up quite dramatically in the game, you're going to be giving up a lot of your money to have this trait active. So you may at some point want to decide to remove that trait. I'm not exactly sure how you'll go about doing that, but I think we can quickly assume there are a few ways of doing that, some more violent than others. Maybe you just, cut ties with your parents and you decide no longer to pay them. Next up is Neon Street Rat, so pretty similar to Freestar Collective Settler. Nothing more to describe here. So next we have Raised Enlightened and Raised Universal. They're both functionally the same. Each one corresponds to a respective religion that's prominent in New Atlantis, that being House Enlightened and Sanctum Universum. So there's a special chest that you'll gain access to based on the trait that you select. And interestingly enough, we get some additional information on these religious houses from the 2022 gameplay, where the trait used to give you a significant discount at the organization store and you would lose access to the other respective religions one. But they've since changed that to just give you access to a chest. So it sounds like you can still access those shops regardless of the trait being active.
I came across some hostile zealots in space, but because I had chosen a trait that made me the same religion as them, I was able to get by without any issues.
And Serpent's Embrace should wrap up the religion traits, which you'll want to note cannot be combined. To my knowledge, the Varun and their worship of the Great Serpent makes up the third and final religion in the game, at least that we're currently aware of. And this trait requires you to grav jump frequently to boost your health and max O2, but it will drop below baseline if you don't jump frequently enough. This sounds like a pretty good trait if the buff lasts for a meaningful amount of time, and it's also worth noting that there are special interactions you'll be privy to based on your traits, similar to how backgrounds function, as we just saw from that Varun space interaction while running Serpent's Embrace. Space is pretty clear-cut, more health and max O2 while in space and less while on the surface, and it can't be combined with the Terra Firma trait, which I think is safe to assume is the direct inverse. Personally, I think this is a pretty low-tier trait to run, given that space interactions will likely make up a much smaller percentage of our in-game time, especially with game time where we're actively controlling just our character versus our spaceship, which is likely not going to benefit from this perk at all. It could be useful in boarding scenarios or visiting other large spaceships or structures where combat is possible, but again, I think Terra Firma will massively outshine this one.
Another great one that gives you a damage buff when your health is low, but mercenaries will randomly show up and try to kill you. No matter what you choose, there will be plenty of ways for you to tell your story. And if you want to remove a trait, there are ways to do that too.
What a view! It's a feast for the eyes. Off we go to another adventure.
We'll let you discover that on your own.
And to wrap this section up, let's cover the 4 remaining traits that we don't have explicit details on. First being Extrovert, which we're assuming is the complete inverse of Introvert. Taskmaster, we have no information on, and I have no idea what will actually be. Terra Firma, we can expect to be the inverse of Spaced, and then United Colonies Native is very likely to be identical in its functionality to something like Freestar Collective Settler. Our second last topic to cover for this entry is XP, leveling, and skills, and this one is a doozy. There are tons of blinking you'll miss at moments where we only get 1 to 2 frames of coverage of a particular skill, and so I've grabbed stills of each of these so that we can get a better look at what options we'll have to play with when the game launches. Understanding the ways in which we acquire XP will be key to optimizing our leveling in Starfield, and I've locked down all currently known sources for XP generation. First is the discovery of new locations while exploring planets. Second is an obvious one, and that's defeating enemies in combat. The XP amount varying based on difficulty. You'll note the 25 XP for killing the level 14 Spacer Punk versus the 15 for the level 8 Spacer. It's not especially clear whether the level of the enemy heavily influences the XP reward, or if it's the enemy type itself that matters more. It seems reasonable that level plays a role though, as we see a 75 XP drop from killing a level 45 hunting cephalopod. Next we see an XP drop for destroying an enemy ship in space, but the XP drop is only 23, so it'll be interesting to see whether space combat proves to be practical as a leveling method. We can also see that lockpicking and successful speech interactions can yield XP, so it's possible we'll see XP rewards from crafting, research, and other skill-based tasks similar to how past Bethesda games like Skyrim would provide XP to both your character and the respective skill for leveling it, such as making potions through alchemy. Finally, it seems very likely we'll be receiving XP rewards for completing quests using the hunting cephalopod example again. We see a massive XP drop and a subsequent level up from this action, which could be the indication of a completed quest, but to play devil's advocate, this could easily have just been a staged giant XP drop to capture guaranteed level up footage. It doesn't seem unreasonable to expect some potential XP rewards from quest completion, full surveys of planets, or completion of dungeon-esque type encounters that push you into a new area via a load screen. One thing we haven't seen any evidence of yet, however, is ways to boost XP rates like we've seen in Fallout with intelligence stacking or Idiot Savant, and rested bonuses, companion boosts, and guardian stones in Skyrim. This seems to be a Bethesda staple, so I'm sure we'll have some similar options to take advantage of. When it comes to level cap, we have a few pieces of critical information that can help us make a reasonable guess of what that level cap could be. In the direct, the highest level monster we've seen so far is level 80, with a ship being at level 100. So that's a safe minimum, but realistically, we're going much higher than that. What many people may not have noticed is that during a hover over on the robotics skill, it says we need 7 more points to unlock expert skills, and yet there are only 6 more unique skills below expert to unlock. Therefore, we must also spend skill points to rank up our skills from rank 1 to 4 as well. We can actually see this confirmed in a split-second visual of the lock-picking skill being ranked up at the expense of a skill point here. Assuming we have the ability to actually max out every single skill in the game, and given that we have 82 skills, we're looking at a level requirement between 329 or 325 to max, depending on whether your starting 3 skills from your background are factored in, and whether you get a skill point at level 1. It's unclear whether there even is a level cap, but this feels like the most practical place to cap things off if there is one. In terms of the leveling itself, we can look back to previous Bethesda titles for a realistic idea of how that will scale. Both Skyrim and Fallout 4 used linear leveling systems with the respective formulas. Skyrim used 75 plus your current character level times 25 for the XP required to next level, and Fallout 4 was very similar, using 200 as the base amount and then current character level times 75 to push to the next level. So if we do end up having a level cap pushing 300, coupled with our on-screen examples of XP drops that we've seen so far, where many of the actions are providing less than 25 XP each, I think we're probably looking at a formula somewhere in the middle of those two. Let's take a quick look at the footage on leveling and skills before digging deeper.
We do level the systems. When you go to system, you'll see, oh, this is like a level 40 system. And us being able to at least control that scale is how we kind of ended up with the 100-ish systems we have.
What are the levelings? What do you mean by level?
It would be like when you look at a map in a game, it says this is the area for low level players. This is level 1.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. So we do that on a system basis. Star system.
Once you've built the perfect character, that's when your journey can really begin. We took what we loved about skills and perks from our previous games and put them together to create an all-new skill system. Each time you level up, you get a skill point, which can be used to unlock or rank up skills. Ranks are unlocked by completing challenges associated with that skill. Challenges become increasingly difficult as you work your way to higher ranks. With our 5 different skill trees and 4 ranks per skill, There's a lot to choose from.
I like the Xenosociology skill because it lets you mind control aliens.
Boost pack out of the gate. I'm boost packing everywhere.
I like maxing out my physical tree so I can get neuro strikes and just punch my way through combat. That one's a lot of fun.
Invest in the skills that suit your playstyle.
I'm very much a stealth player. So, I'm out there pickpocketing everyone. My favorite part about being stealthy is slowly creeping through vents like you're in a movie, and then jumping out and springing on people.
Whenever possible, I like to talk my way through situations.
This area's off limits. Fine, I'll issue you an access card.
I'm more of a run and gun player. I like doing the death from above thing where I boost pack over guys and I throw landmines at them.
Take him down! Move, move, move! You're gonna pay for that!
I like blowing stuff up.
But it's not just in how you can look, but in how your character plays and develops. The skill system combines the best from our previous games, and you can unlock new skills as you level up, and then you rank those skills up by using them and completing challenges.
So you can see again from the 2022 footage a skill point being used to rank up a specific skill to rank 4. It seems that the visual icon of the skill changes from plain to a silver border at rank 2, a gold at rank 3, and then an enhanced badge that really pops out when you max it. Kinda cool. Here are some even better images showcasing almost all skills at max rank. Skills are broken up into 5 categories, those being physical, social, combat, science, and tech. Each category has 4 levels of proficiency, ranging from novice in the first row, advanced in the second, expert in the third, and the fourth column very likely being master based on the security skill highlighting the highest tier locks as master, and the 2 previous tiers bearing the same expert and advanced descriptors, just like the skill trees. As we saw from the footage in the direct, you must complete specific tasks in order to rank up each respective skill, and they become more and more challenging as you progress through the ranks. You'll also note that ranks 1 to 3 in a given skill are usually small incremental bonuses, whereas rank 4 is usually a significant upgrade that is different from the rewards provided from rank 1 to 3. Another thing a lot of people don't realize is that the skill names are sorted alphabetically per tier. For example, in the social tree in expert tier, you have instigation, leadership, and outpost management. This is helpful for anyone looking to make a best guess at what the names of the unknown skills could be by narrowing down the options due to this sorting method. So let's look at all the currently confirmed skills we've seen, some of which we know in great depth, others we only know by name. Starting with physical skills, our first known skill is stealth. So those of you who played Skyrim will know that as sneak. So stealth attacks will do multiplied damage when you are in stealth mode. So you can actually see from that short clip, the act of being hidden is what will probably be the prerequisite for stealth attacks to be registered. And in order to level that up, you just need to perform X amount of stealth attacks. Next is weightlifting, which increases your total carrying capacity by 10 kilos at base rank, and then obviously scaling up as you progress further. Wellness is very similar in that it gives you 30 points of health that would scale up with progressive ranks. We actually know diddly squat about the advanced skills in the physical tree, so we're going to move on to the expert ones, the first being decontamination, which increases the chance to recover from infections naturally. So hint, hint, becoming infected will be a game mechanic, and so perhaps some of our suits or helmets will help provide resistance against that as well. Martial arts, we have the name but no description. However, we do see that the progression bar is based on dealing damage with unarmed attacks, so perhaps unlocking martial arts is a prerequisite to even being able to deal damage with unarmed attacks. The last 2 skills on this tree are the master skills, concealment, which we only know the name of because of a quick display of the Adoring Fan's skills during the direct, and the final master skill being neuro strikes. While we don't have an explicit description for this either, it's pretty clear from the direct footage that this is very heavily focused on performing unarmed attacks as well. Moving on to social skills, we actually know all but 4 of these, by name, and most of them we have a complete description for, thanks to footage from 2022 and the Direct. The first being Commerce, which seems to indicate that you may be able to run your own player-run shop, or at the very least, it's some sort of buy-sell related skill that may help in terms of favorable transactions. Next is Gastronomy, which we've seen before, and clearly it gives you access to new ingredients and new recipes for food and drink to create. Persuasion, you have an increased chance of success in speech challenges, pretty simple. Scavenging seems to indicate that you'll be finding more loot on your journey, whether that means you'll find more searchable things for resources versus just a higher quantity of resources per search is unclear, but you'll be getting more loot in general is what the indication is. And a classic return of what is one of my favorite skills, and probably that of many others as well, is theft. So get ready to start yoinking some items out of people's pockets. And in case you've ever done any pickpocketing, you can put some fun items into the pockets of unsuspecting townspeople and let some chaos ensue like this.
Solitude. Never should have come here.
Oh well. Must have run off.
At base rank, Diplomacy allows you to force a target NPC at or below your level to stop fighting for a while, and progressive ranks will allow you to perform the same action on NPCs higher level than you. We'll see next with Intimidation, the effect is similar, where you can force an NPC to flee at or below your level or higher, depending on whether you have higher ranks unlocked. Our first expert skill is Instigation, so similar to the previous two, but this time it will cause NPCs to attack their allies. Leadership allows you to gain affinity faster with your companions. Personally, I don't see this being an especially valuable use of skill points unless there are significant benefits for maxing out affinity with companions. Outpost Management, we just know the name, we don't know what you can do with it. And then finally, we have Xenosociology, which from the Direct appears to give you the ability to control NPCs. I would expect the higher the rank is in Xenosociology, the higher level the NPC that you can control would be, similar to Intimidation and Instigation. Combat skills here are pretty clear-cut. Typically, they are associated with a given weapon type, and climbing up the ranks typically provides something like a damage boost, and then if you hit the final rank, you could get something like a range increase, which we can see is the case here with ballistics. So second is dueling, where melee weapons do more damage. Following that is lasers, so lasers do more damage. Then we have pistol certification, so damage with pistols. And then shotgun certification is the final one. We don't have a description, but pretty obvious assumption would be that shotguns do more damage. On the advanced section, we have demolitions, which causes explosives to do more damage and increases the explosion radius as well. For heavy weapon certification, you can see that you gain 30 damage resistance when aiming down sights with a heavy weapon when you upgrade to rank 4. However, it's more than likely that ranks 1 to 3 just provide a base damage increase to heavy weapons. I'm adding particle beams here next. Even though it shows it in the expert tier, it's actually now been placed in the advanced tier as of the Direct release. This just happens to be the only place that shows the name particle beams on the skill. And to wrap up the advanced skills, we've got rifle certification. So again, probably boosted damage to rifles and some sort of perk at rank 4. For expert skills, we've got marksmanship. Not sure what exactly that will be. Maybe some sort of increased damage for critical hits. Then we've got rapid reloading. I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory. Not sure what the rank 4 perk would be on that. Sniper certification, also pretty clear cut. Scoped weapons are steadier and have less sway. And last on the list for expert is targeting, which is a huge buff to hip firing, so increased range and accuracy when shooting without aiming. Unfortunately, we don't have any information on the master skills in the combat tree, so we'll move on to science. First up is astrodynamics, which allows you to grab jump greater distances. Second is geology, which we only know the name for. Maybe it allows you to harvest higher quality resources or more resources per harvest. Medicine makes med packs heal more, and surveying gives you the ability to actually conduct surveying, which is absolutely essential in exploration. You get rewards for completing full planet and system surveys, so definitely a skill you want to be speccing into early on. In advanced, all we have is botany. Perhaps it's something about scanning flora or utilizing flora. So for expert skills, we know a little bit more. So astrophysics, you can scan the moons of your current planet, and you have a 10% chance to discover a trait when scanning it. and it's also ranked up by scanning unique planets or moons. Chemistry allows you to create improved chems and research additional chems at a research lab. And then outpost engineering is the last on the expert tier here, and we know no additional information on it. Similar to the combat tree, we know nothing about the master skills in the science tree. And last but not least, tech skills. First up is ballistic weapon systems, which we don't know any additional details on, beyond the fact that you must deal ballistic weapon damage in your ship to rank it up. Followed by boost pack training, which we've seen featured in the direct. Looks awesome. I'm definitely going to be acquiring that early on for higher mobility. Piloting, we have no additional details on this skill. And on the flip side, for security, we know everything about this skill. So this is the equivalent of lockpicking. And we know that by ranking up the skill, you can hack more advanced locks. So it goes advanced, expert, and then master. And then ranking the skill up to rank 4 provides you with the ability to expend a digipick to remove keys that are not required to solve the puzzle. You'll also be able to bank more auto attempts based on your rank of security. Next up is a brief look at targeting control systems, which we have a quick clip about from the direct.
Unlocking the targeting control system skill will allow you to zero in on specific subsystems of the ship you target.
Next up is payloads, which we have a description for, but no explicit details on what rank ups provide. But based on the description, it sounds like it impacts how much cargo we're actually able to transport within our ship. Then we have missile weapon systems, which we have no additional information on, followed by particle beam weapon systems, which we do have a description for, but again, no explicit details on what rank ups provide. It's safe to assume that leveling it up is probably similar to how ballistic weapon systems is upgraded. Same going for missile weapon systems as well. Then we've got robotics, and based on the description, it is a more offensive-based skill. And using knowledge from the 2022 gameplay reveal, it looks like we'll be doing more damage to robots and turrets with this skill. Second last is starship design, which appears to be a prerequisite for purchasing and utilizing certain ship parts. But aside from that single frame captured in the ship design screen, we don't have any other additional information on how this skill operates. And the final skill that we have any information on is starship engineering. Beyond that, we do not know any of the master skill information for the tech tree. And that fully wraps up skills. Let me know what skill you're most looking forward to trying in the comments below. Last thing on our list to cover is character creation.
But the most important story is the one that you tell. I'm the type of person who spends hours in character creation, and I think people are going to be really excited when they see all of the improvements we've made.
One of the biggest overhauls was done through our character generation system. We scanned a wide range of faces from different age groups and ethnicities, and by mixing and matching all that data, we were able to create highly detailed and diverse characters.
We use that exact system to create all of the characters and NPCs you're going to see in the game. So any character you see almost always is a character you could make yourself.
Snap out of it!
Hey, come on, come on. Okay, take it easy. You were out cold. No physical damage. Mentally, the jury's still out. You know who you are? New recruit for Argos Extractors? Ring any bells? Any of this look familiar?
You start your character creation journey as though you're cycling through employee records. You'll pick from a lineup of 40 presets, and that'll be your starting point. Your journey from there can be as detailed or as quick as you want it to be. This new system has more to offer than ever before.
It's also the simplest character generation system we've ever had. We let the player get as close as possible to make whatever they want. With the various facial morphs you can blend together, the dermesthetic and makeup, blemishes, scars, piercings, teeth settings, it's a lot, but I think it's the most fun to use.
But ultimately, it's not our story, it's the story you create by who you are and the choices you make. And that starts with character creation. It's our most flexible yet. You can customize all the elements of how you look.
So character creation looks pretty clean here. The system has variety, but is simple to use and will leave you with a character truly unique to yourself at the end of the process. I love that they've captured the likeness of real people to serve as templates for your character creation process too. My one concern is whether the options for features like chin and head shape are widely adjustable to give you true autonomy in how you construct your character. One of my favorite things about Dark Souls and Elden Ring is making absurd characters like the Crimson Chin's great-great-grandfather. There were full facial construction sliders that you could go nuts with in those games, but it wasn't clear from the footage in the Direct whether this is possible to that degree or not in Starfield. If it doesn't end up being part of the base game, I'm sure the modders will jump on that right away though. A few things worth noting here include the fact that you can adjust your character at a genetics facility later on, and that there are quite a few options we see in the Direct that are not explicitly shown in action. In fact, I did the math, and based on the scroll position changes in the character creation menu, I calculated that there are 38 modifiable character features we'll be able to fiddle with. I also think it's worth shouting out how much the Starfield team has improved the actual look of character models in the past year. They look a lot more polished and no longer have that weird, less real oily look. And that just about wraps things up for entry 0.1 of the Starfield Handbook. If you made it to the end of this video, I hope I managed to provide you with some newfound information. I'm putting an insane amount of time into these videos and plan to go even harder when Starfield releases, so if you're interested in more high quality Starfield content, then please consider subscribing and sharing this series with your Starfield friends to help me reach my ambitious goal of 15k subs before the end of the year, and to keep you notified for when the next entry of the handbook drops. If you haven't watched the intro video to the series yet, make sure to check that out here. See you in the next one. Peace.